Hi everyone, welcome to the Dee-Brief with Dr. D. Real talk, real strategy, real leadership, one insight at a time. I'm your host, Dr. D, and this is your space for bold conversations, soul-deep reflections, and truth that transforms. Whether you're an executive, an entrepreneur, or an everyday change agent, this podcast is for you, navigating both public success and that private struggle. Each episode, we take a deep dive into emotional wellness, grief recovery, faith, leadership, and the tools you need to rise with clarity and with purpose. This isn't just strategy, it's healing. It's a calling. This is the Dee-Brief with Dr. D. Let's get into it. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another exciting episode of the Dee-Brief with Dr. D. I am your host, Dr. D, and I am so excited to be sitting here with another exciting, inspirational guest, LaDonna Carey. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. This work that you're doing, just listening to your intro is exciting.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you for saying that. So I'm going to ask you to intro yourself now. I could read off your bio and talk about you, but I like for our guests to introduce themselves. So if someone were to ask you, who is LaDonna Carey, what would you say?
That sounds like the elevator pitch that we work on, doesn't it? What do we say for people to know who we are? I've been a therapist for nearly 40 years. I live in East Tennessee, and I work primarily with betrayed partners, with couples who are going through infidelity repair. And pretty much my career started off doing this type of work. I started in a domestic violence shelter, and that grabbed my heart. So all of my career has kind of followed that path.
Wonderful. That is amazing work, and it's really work that's so needed, because people that experience that part of their journey, they need a safe space where they feel comfortable, where someone can talk with them. Is the work that we do, so it resonates so well with me. How did you get into this work? What drew you to this passion and this purpose that you have?
I will have to say it was my mom that gave me the direction here. I was kind of floundering around after grad school or after undergrad school. I got my degree in criminal justice corrections, which, I still have a heart for. I worked in a center for juvenile delinquents, a residential treatment center, for a lot of years during grad school. But before grad school, I said, Mom, I just don't know what I want to do. Do I want to go to work with this? Do I want to go to grad school? And she actually said, LaDonna, people have been talking to you all your life about their problems, of things that are going on. I think you need to go psychology. So my mom, in her wisdom, led me in this direction. But the more I studied psychology, the more I was in the classes and in the field, the more it resonated that this is truly where I need to be. I get a lot of joy, I guess, from being able to let people feel that they're being seen and heard, and that there are steps forward to be able to make their life better.
Yeah. That's amazing. And you really need someone in this line of work that understands it the way you do. Betrayal is one of the deepest wounds that someone can experience, because betrayal means that there was a trust there, that you trust this person. You felt you had a reciprocal relationship where you can share with them in a way where it wouldn't be exposed, or you can be vulnerable. So talk to us about that. How does working with people who have gone through betrayal, how do you how do you communicate with them? How do you help them to move through the process? And I don't say move forward, because I feel like we move through a process in our journey. So I would love for you to share with our listeners how you help people move through the process. And there's no way you could be touched by this work and it doesn't touch you. So how has it impacted you?
Well, one of the best compliments that I can get from people is saying, "You hear me. I know that you understand what I'm saying." So I think that's an important part just from the beginning, that somebody gets me. People have said to me that when they've talked with other folks that maybe don't understand or haven't been trained in betrayal trauma, they feel like that they've been betrayed by that trusted person again, because it may be minimized or understood, or there's a discussion of, well, what was your part in this? Yeah, and when we're betrayed, we don't have a part in that. That's another person's decision of what they're going to do. So, betrayal trauma, the definition of that is the person, I call it your ride or die. You're my person who has my back. You're my person I can trust with, that I'm partnering with. And all of a sudden you realize that this person has been deceitful. Maybe they have a hidden life. They are not there as a secure connection for me. That disrupts our entire nervous system. So part of working with betrayal trauma is helping that person understand this is what's happening to your nervous system. This is, I've got a series this is your brain on betrayal. This is what the different parts of your brain do when betrayal trauma hits. This is the way your body responds to it. So helping people understand just that biological, neurological component of it, so they don't feel like they're going crazy. Yeah. And then the next steps that really are important is, what do we need to put in place so that you can start trusting yourself again? Because betrayal trauma takes away your confidence in, I can read the room. I can read what's going on in my world. When we're betrayed, it takes away that sense of security, that I know what's going on around me. So we have to be able to reestablish that self-trust and confidence.
Yeah, that's so important, because I love what you said, and I share this with some of my clients as well. Betrayal is about the choice the other person made, right? Mm-hmm. And people always say, you're so right. Well, what part did you play? Or make sure you look at, your role in this. But the other person made the choice. I preached a message on Sunday at my church about rejection, and how it feels to be rejected, and to look at rejection as a gift sometimes, because it's not about us, it's about the action of the other person. So I love that you emphasize that. And I said this on Sunday. Sometimes it's hard for people to admit that they experience rejection. Do you find it challenging for some people to admit that they were betrayed? Because, to your point, it may take away from your self-confidence, that you were able to read the room, that you weren't naive. So how do you communicate with your clients about that piece?
There is definitely the aspect of shame that people feel. Shame that this happened to me, shame that I didn't see it coming, shame of what are other people going to think, right. Maybe even shame that I'm making a decision to step away from this relationship, when that goes against maybe your faith beliefs, maybe the culture that you're in, that you're not supposed to step away. So I help people name that. Did you do something for you to be ashamed of because you loved somebody that chose to betray you, that chose to deceive you? If your greatest fault is that you love somebody and you love them with integrity and you love them with honesty, is that something to be ashamed of? So we go through and flesh out what are those mistaken beliefs that are running through your mind that are telling you that you are shameful. And let's evaluate those for what the truth is, facts versus fear. And, I love the saying that shame needs to change sides. The people who do shameful things need to carry that shame. We don't need to carry that shame for them.
That's right. That's right. That's so good. I can imagine how your clients feel when you say that to them. It probably helps to lighten the load so much more. As you said in the beginning, that you understand that you're listening to them, but also it helps to affirm, their own beliefs and what they're feeling. So that's really important. I really love the fact that you talk about shame changing sides, because people may feel like it's all them. So you really affirm the fact that what they're feeling is valid. So tell us about a success story, something that makes you smile, someone that you had that conversation with and you saw a breakthrough in what they were going through.
I think I'm trying to think of a particular person. There are several women that I have worked with, and when I share with them just that statement that shame needs to change sides, are you carrying someone else's shame? And it does seem like a light bulb goes off in their mind then of, does this truly belong to me? And part of the exercise that we do is to take what we're carrying and look at different buckets. How many buckets am I carrying that do not belong to me? Yeah. What are the parts that do carry along with me that are more a statement of my character, my core beliefs, what I know about this world, what I know about me, and what I know about how I interact with this world. And it's a very powerful exercise that we do to name everything that's weighing you down. And then we can do visuals of, I am actually releasing that. I'm setting my bucket down. Sometimes we do like flashcards or little notes that this is something that I'm carrying. This is how I choose to release this. And I like this exercise because they can take it home with them. Right. When they start feeling overwhelmed or bogged down, how do I name that? Where is that in my body? And how do I release that from my body?
Yeah, that's really good. I love the naming it, because a lot of times we have things that are hidden, and until we acknowledge it and we name it, sometimes we don't accept it. So that's a really good exercise. And the fact that it doesn't just end when they leave your session, they can take and continue to meditate on it and work on it. I think it's also great that you have that. So what key messages would you give to someone? I guess, the first part of my question is, how would someone recognize that they're going through betrayal trauma? Let me start there.
Yeah, that's a great question, because a lot of people, when a relationship has been impacted by deception or infidelity or addiction, their comment is, this is not trauma. Trauma is other things that are going on. And they think about huge explosions or horrific car accidents or something. But there is PTSD that's called complex PTSD. And it is when you are in a situation and there's a consistent turmoil to our nervous system. There's a consistent lack of safety that is there. So they may have disturbed sleep. They may have migraines. They may have muscle tension. They may have mood swings, and they may feel paranoia if there's gaslighting going on, that I'm asking you about something that feels off and you're telling me I'm the problem, that it's not off, that
Right.
things that I know happen this way truly are not that way. And so when we start to question ourselves, there's that lack of internal safety. So all of those are signs of complex PTSD, that we startle maybe when somebody touches us. There may be a sense of disgust that comes around when somebody starts talking with us.
Yeah, that's so true because, and it's compounded, right? So when you have betrayal trauma, your life doesn't stop. Like there are other things that are going on. You could have health issues, you can have financial issues, job insecurity, and then you have the betrayal on top of that. It's really important that that's addressed because it's almost like having two or three symptoms in your body physically and you're only addressing one. You have to address everything that's happening. So I love your sector. How did you find it? Because a lot of times you don't hear about betrayal trauma. You have social workers and psychologists and therapists who focus on many other things, but very rarely do you hear specifically betrayal trauma. Is this something that came to you because of your passion, your superpower, your purpose, or did you know that you wanted to help individuals who experience betrayal?
Well, you know the saying, you teach what you know. So unfortunately, I know about betrayal. I experienced that myself. And when I was going through it, there really, maybe it was at the beginning of us understanding betrayal trauma. There was not a term for that. I went to grad school a long time ago, and I continued studying. I consider myself to be a trauma therapist, but even in the trauma therapy world, we were not talking about the impact of betrayal. So I started studying. This is what's going on with me. I looked at research. I looked at books that were out there to be able to find what is this. And finally, I came across betrayal trauma, and it was check, 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 check with that. So it over the past 5 years, we've seen more people talking about it. But we've also seen an explosion in betrayal trauma due to activity on the internet that's easily accessible.
Oh, yeah.
More and more, you don't have to leave home. You can sit there with the phone in your hand and you can engage in whatever you want to engage in. So more of those people were coming into my office. And as I was learning more through the years about this is how I take care of myself and this is how I rebuild my world, I was trying to put more of that out into the world too. I do training with therapists. I do Facebook and Instagram and social media. I think you and I connected on LinkedIn. So I try to get that message out more and more so that people do know that term and that therapists are more prepared when their clients come into the office and maybe don't know the term, but we can share with them this is what this is.
Yeah, that's good because it's a term that you definitely, when you hear it, you think you know what it is, but just like with anything else, there is so many more layers that you want to make sure you're paying attention to before you just start engaging. We have a grief coaching program through Restoring Bountiful Joy and Darlene Williams Consulting. But now we're taking that program and we are training people to be grief coaches. That's going to be launching later this week, because it takes a special gift, as you know, to have a niche or a specialty that's targeted. And everyone can't be a grief coach. Everyone can't be a betrayal recovery specialist. So we are, having a certification program so that people can do that and learn how to do that the right way. So I love how targeted your specialty is. That's super, super important. So what key message do you want to give to our listeners? What is it that you want to share for people who may be going through this, that they're listening to this podcast and they're identifying, wow, I think I have betrayal trauma. How do I start my journey? How do I, even think about going through it, instilling hope? Because, betrayal can lead to some devastating consequences if you're not careful. So you have the opportunity to instill hope in people in this work that you do. What would you like to say to our listeners?
I believe that the hope comes internally, because betrayal, as you were saying, does bring around some devastation in our life. And it may be financial, it may be parenting that's impacted, it may be work. I've heard of betrayed partners losing their job because they can't function at work after the betrayal.
Right.
So the hope that I have is that you do not lose yourself. You do not lose that person that you were before. You may have gotten ripped apart and blown apart for a while, but you can pick those pieces up and you can grow. There is a post-traumatic growth. It comes way on down the road. We don't want to fast forward through that. But being able to say, I can take the next breath. I can take the next step. Support around you is one of the biggest predictors of how well you're going to get through this. So being able to find people who understand what you're going through, people who are walking that same path, and someone who can help walk with you on that path. Those are the things that can help instill hope that this person gets me and this person will help me. And we'll do this as long as we need to do this. I have a magnet on my refrigerator that says, the barn burned down. Now I can see the moon. Wow. And I love that idea that, there can be devastation, but we can find the next glimmer, the next step, and regain that confidence that this may be horrendous, but I've got to stay in power, and I have the resiliency, and I will find that again and tap into that and continue to move forward.
Absolutely. That's amazing. Thank you so much. This has been such a great conversation. You shared so many gems that people can really utilize to help them on their journey, but to also help them to realize that they're on a journey. And I think that's the first step, understanding that and admitting that. How can people find you?
Well, I am on Facebook and Instagram under LaDonna Carey Counseling. On LinkedIn, I'm LaDonna Carey, and my website is LaDonnaCarey.com.
Wonderful. So LaDonna Carey, and they can find you.
Yes. Just Google me and I may pop up there.
Yes, that's awesome. Thank you so much. This has been such a great conversation. We appreciate you coming on the show and sharing your wealth of knowledge and decades of experience.
Thank you for allowing me to do that.
Awesome. Thank you everyone for joining us. This has been another episode of the Dee-Brief with Dr. D. Well, thank you for joining me today on the Dee-Brief with Dr. D. If this episode spoke to your heart, share it with someone who needs a word of hope and clarity. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and connect with our social media community. And remember, healing is not weakness, it's wisdom. You don't have to lead on empty. You don't have to rise alone. You were built to lead, to heal, and to thrive from the inside out. Until next time, lead well, heal deep, and walk boldly. This is Dr. D signing off.